Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to see such a big crowd here in the chambers tonight. This is the November the 18th, 2024 meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Thames Centre. The time is 5 p.m. and I'd like to call this meeting to order. I've been informed there are no additions to the agenda. So if no problem. Okay. So a mover and a seconder then to approve tonight's agenda. Moved by Councillor Crockett and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? Michelle, Deputy Mayor Smybert will be joining us online tonight at some point. That motion is then carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest amongst the members of council. Seeing none, we'll move to announcements. First, I would like to remind everyone that this coming Friday evening, the Festival of Lights will be kicking off in the park. The pool area pavilion is where it will be happening. The time is 5:30 until 8 p.m. on Friday, and the lights will be turned on by someone in a red suit, I think, at about 7:30 p.m. So hope everybody can make it. And the second one is a letter from a longtime business owner around here who has actually done a lot of work for the municipality. And I'd just like to take a moment and read that letter. It's from Banner Promotions. After 27 years servicing clients and assisting everyone with their signage needs, I have made the decision to sell the company. Effective November the 15th, 2024, Banner Promotions has been sold to Fast Signs London East, owned by Ted Shoughton. I have known Ted for over 30 years and have always been impressed by the way he works with clients and the quality of workmanship. I am confident that he and his team will provide you with an exceptional level of customer service. Bev goes on to say that how grateful he is for the response that he's received from the community and the municipality. And it's a big move in his life, but he's looking forward to new horizons. So as somebody who's been in this municipality doing business here for a long time, and I know there are people in this room who know Bev quite well and the quality of work he's done and the support that he's given to the community, I'd just like to take a moment to congratulate him and to wish him all the best in whatever he decides to do next. So we will move on to presentations and delegations, which is item number 6 on your agenda. And tonight we gather to honor the extraordinary commitment and bravery of our firefighters, presenting long service awards to those who have dedicated decades of their life to protecting our community. Rick Sager, David Van Dyke, and Dave Cove have answered calls while also exhibiting the highest standards of courage, compassion, and professionalism. Their unwavering service reminds us of the profound impact they have on our safety and our well-being. Each of these men have responded to emergencies at all hours and under the most demanding conditions. They give up their own time with friends and family so that they can protect us. Their service and selflessness has earned them the respect and gratitude of the people of Thames Centre because we know they'll be there in moments of crisis, saving lives, protecting neighborhoods, and offering comfort to those in need. At this moment, I'd like to ask Chief Nick Dorican, District Chief Wes Fox, and Deputy Chief Robert Coonson to join me to help present these awards. firefighters who are dedicated to inspire us all who will contribute to this council celebrates years with large projections and thank you for everything that we have done.
Thanks, Mayor. And I'd just like to add, like, to echo your sentiment. Very well said. All the time. Celebrate today. In the room with us, just over there, 110 years. Not in one person. Separated between the three of them. So, if I may, sure. Could I have our exemplary service medal? So, District Chief, District Deputy Chief, Rick Seg. Thank you. Rick has been with us for 40 years, and Rick deserves and receives a 40-year service bar that attaches to his provincial service medal. So on behalf of the Ontario Fire Marshal, thank you very much for your service. And on that, we have a certificate. Thank you. And next I will call retired Captain Dave Pope, also 40 years of service. And Dave joined around the same time, and 40 years is that's just a drop in the bucket, Dave says. Congratulations, sir, and you also from province. Sorry, this is the federal story. This one goes to that your current federal medal. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. And last but not least, Captain Dave Van Dyke. And Dave has been with us for 30 years, sir. Well deserved. And again, on behalf of the province of Ontario, the Fire Marshal. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so at this point, then we'll move on to item number 6.2 on the agenda, which is a presentation from the Thorndale Lions Club. Norm Jerry and Dave Graham. So if you'd like to sit at the table there, I think the mic is on. Is there a red light there? Okay. There's a button in the center, a metal button. There you go. So whenever you're ready.
Yeah, my name is Norm Jerry, and I'm a resident of Thorndale, and I'm also a member of the Lions at Thorndale Community Center. And next slide. we're here today to talk about possibly expanding the community center based on given needs. We're in a rapidly growing community, as you can see here, but there's 4 new subdivisions currently going on in Thorndale at this time. And the usage has reached fairly predictable levels. Most of our bookings are steady, and they're up to 1 year in advance in most cases. And our peak programming is well attended, including some waiting lists. There's some people that, like myself, who like to play pickleball. I'm not very good at it, but we can't seem to be able to find the time because it's all booked up. We tend to get a lot of people from London and St. Mary's coming and using the facilities, which is great because that's revenue. So next slide. So some of the issues are, the growing pains are becoming evident. We obviously have the fall fair there. And we also have a theater club that takes up quite a bit of time because we don't have a dedicated hall. We end up having to cancel all the recreation facilities, like whether it's basketball or indoor soccer, because they need to set up stages and everything for the theater group and the fair and things like that. And right now it's what the hall used to be used for was weddings and funerals, which we have not done since we got the new community center. And we also, it became very apparent we need some more room for community events that suddenly pop up. Last Remembrance Day, it looked like it was going to rain and we were going to have to go over to the community center. Well, there was not enough room to have everybody attend indoors if it actually had rained at all. So, and right now the gym is booked 72% of the time and the meeting rooms are booked 50% of the time. So like I said, the gymnasium itself is used as a hall, and it requires a lot of setup to put a temporary stage in, temporary sound system. Next slide. So what we're looking for is to have a dedicated event hall with the stages and storage, and a modest expansion of the kitchen area would be nice. And additionally, parking spots. Right now we have overflow parking, which is basically on the grass, which is going to be an issue, but I think we need a permanent solution looking down the way. The storage is minimum. Currently the storage facilities, half of it is dedicated just to do maintenance for the maintenance people on site. So half the storage is already eaten up. So if we wanted to have more activities where clubs are coming in saying we'd like to store our basketballs and things like that, they have to haul that stuff in and out. So there's a very definite issue of having additional storage. And again, the theater group that we have that's been going on for I don't know how many years, have no place to store their stage or temporary props and things like that at this time. So next. And so the benefits of expanding and getting a dedicated hall would allow us not to interrupt some of the recreational events, and it would allow more recreation for other purposes, whatever. It would allow us more social events. Like I said, the previous community center, we had lots of weddings and we had funerals, unfortunately, and we can't do that. It's just, there's just no way. Nobody wants to get married under a basketball net. So having a dedicated hall with a separate stage and a room that could be divided up or partitioned, it still would be multi-purpose. But again, by having the hall, that would give us additional recreational facilities, which increases revenue. And again, it would give us a additional space for short notice community events. Right now, it's pretty hard to book anything when things are booked a year out. And if we had some major event that all of a sudden, hey, we need to get people into the community center just to have a meeting or some short notice event, that would help that way. Yeah. Funding. We believe that there is money in from unspent community fundraising that was previously allocated for the community center. And we figured at this stage it would be more than adequate just to do design work. And it doesn't affect the municipal budget because I believe it's already been allocated towards that community center. And one of the things we're starting to see, and I'm a fairly new person in the area, like I mentioned, there's 4 subdivisions right now. With the bank's interest rates going down, we're starting to see new housing pick up again. It had slowed down for a couple of years there, but now some of those new development areas are actually starting to, you're seeing shovels in the dirt now. And in fact, on the street that I live on, there's 5 houses just went up within the last month and a half. So that's bringing more people in. That's bringing more need for expanding the community center. And of course, the new housing and that would, through development taxes and things like that, would increase the revenues for the community. And then next slide, just some of the events that we do have, which we have 3 community breakfasts. We have 4 bingos, we have a social gaming night, and we have the Santa Claus parade. And the Agriculture Society has their theater and the ladies' night and farmers' night. The Optimists have the Easter egg hunt there. We have numerous church dinners, and we have numerous summer camps and craft shows, election debates and voting. And then we would like to have weddings, but so far I think the only thing we've seen are showers for them, but not, like I said, nobody wants to get married under a basketball net. Next slide. And just so you know, these are some of the major stakeholders of the Lions Club, the Thorndale Agriculture, and one of the new, I noticed that we spelled agriculture wrong, so we're going to start a spelling club and go from there. Then there's the Thorndale Optimists, of course, and I Love Thorndale, and the Boys and Girls Club. And that's just a few of the stakeholders that we have. There are other new the Renaissance Festival is there. But that's basically my presentation. I hope I didn't rush it, or I'm a little nervous.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Any questions from council? Councillor Crockett, go ahead.
I just want to thank you for coming out today. You brought quite a few folks with you. I know that we've tried to make an effort of even moving our council meetings into Thorndale twice a year. So we do know that the community center is being used well. I did just have one question, and perhaps this is for Director McDonald. When was the current community center finished? That's up right now.
Through the mayor, it opened up during COVID. It opened up in January of 2021, but very slowly due to the fact we're in the middle of the pandemic.
Perfect. Thank you.
And is Deputy Mayor Smybert online at all? No. Oh, we're having some issues. Okay. Tom, anything you?
Yeah, so I'm in support of this. I have a motion later on to support that, and I think as Norm mentioned, having this project in our back pocket, I think would be good to allow us to plan all the different needs in a timely manner. And again, having a shovel ready project so that we might be eligible for grants. I think we heard about the need for the North Rink at the Dorchester Flight Exec Center, but we don't really have a lot of other big projects that would be eligible for grants, and so I think it would behoove us to prepare ourselves. That said, we do have very limited recreation funds, but I think the idea that we can plan for when we do have those development charges coming in again, then we won't be caught flat-footed and be bursting at the seams, as right now it's well used, and we don't want to get into those friction or pain points. So I think this is a very timely proposal. I'm willing to support it. And I just want to thank the community representatives for coming out. And I know some of the members in the audience were on the fundraising committee that helped generate that surplus of funds. So I again appreciate their community spirit for helping get the first building built. And I think it's kind of appropriate that there is that legacy that can continue.
Thanks, Councillor Heeman. Just a couple of questions myself then. You had made mention of a room with a stage. You're thinking of a fixed stage, are you? Or not one that can be moved? Yeah, just for general interest, any particular reason why a fixed stage as opposed to something that's portable or can be brought in? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Oh,
Yeah, I think it's all for the other positions.
and a hassle.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
you know,
No, I understand. I just wanted to sort of clarification. And with the funds that are remaining, you think that that would be adequate for you to do sort of a feasibility of, oh, sorry, I didn't notice
didn't
you
want
were.
to shut off.
So in terms of that, you think that the remaining amount of money is enough to do your study into seeing
I think,
going
I
forward
believe it
what
is enough
the
to do,
design work might be?
I believe it's enough to do a feasibility
Okay,
approach and a
all right.
scoping out process, I would say.
yeah.
I don't think you're at the point of RFPs or statements of work
No,
or things like that.
no, no. And just one other thing, I just want to ask, I see the deputy mayor is online now and just find out if she has any other questions before we move back to Councillor Heeman. Deputy Mayor Smyberg, do you have any questions?
I don't, thanks, Mayor McMillan for allowing me to, ask questions. I just joined, so, but I thought all the information that was contained in the agenda was really well explained. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And did I see Councillor Heeman then?
Yes, your worship. And just to add on to your question, I think if you have a dedicated stage, then you don't have to, you bookings for the hall can still go on and stage practice can go on. So there's 2 weeks that the hall is booked out for dinner theater. That's 2 weeks of lost revenue, where presumably some of those times during the daytime, you could have, again, like aerobics activities or other recreation or other meetings go on in that hall. And, what's on the stage stays on the stage. But through you, your worship, to staff, I was just wondering, do we have an idea as to what those reserve funds or held funds are standing at this point?
Okay, so what I just said was I have that information that's been passed to me from staff. It's $480,121. So in a perfect world, it should be lots for you to do your study. Okay, then if there are no other questions from council, then with council's consensus, we could move over to item number 14 on your agenda, which is the notice of motion from Councillor Heeman. I'm not sure, Councillor Heeman, did you want to read it out and before we go on further?
Yes, your worship. So whereas Thorndale is a growing community with large forecasted population growth due to 4 new subdivision approvals, And whereas Thorndale has an excellent utilization of the current facility at 72% and new recreational uses for the gymnasium, whereas developing shovel-ready projects in advance is good fiscal and planning practice. And whereas the surplus of funds were raised by community fundraising for specific use on the Thorndale Community Center. Whereas the proposed project scope would restore the historic facility capacity of the Thorndale grounds and foster more different recreation and events opportunities for the Thames Center community. And whereas a surplus of funds was raised by the community for specific use on the Thorndale Community Center, now therefore be it resolved that council will establish an ad hoc committee for the expansion of the Thorndale Community Center and the goals of consulting on a design for future expansion that would include a new hall with a stage, expanded kitchen area, and paved parking areas. And that staff be directed to draft terms of reference for a committee to be brought forward to council at a future meeting in January of 2025. And be it further resolved that an appropriate budget for the design be referred to the 2025 budget process with use of the Thorndale Community Center Deferred Revenue Fund.
We have the motion before us. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Crockett, all in favor? None opposed, so that motion carries. Okay, at this point too, I also need to receive the presentation and a mover and a seconder to receive. Councillor Heeman and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smybert. All in favor? Thank you. That motion carries. Thank you. Thank you all to the residents of Thorndale. Actually, Thames Center too. Thank you. Okay. We'll now move into the public meetings regarding proposed 2025 building fees. That council adjourn its regular meeting at 5:28 p.m. and move into a public meeting pursuant to the Building Code Act regarding proposed 2025 building fees. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Crockett and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smybert. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. All right. Notice was provided on October the 24th of 2024 that pursuant to Section 7 of the Building Code Act, a public participation meeting would be held to review the proposed changes and additions to the building fees schedule. So I'm going to turn it over to a staff report from Amanda Story, Director of Planning and Development Services.
Thank you. Through you, your worship, I have our chief building official, Eric Boulard, in with this presentation next to me as we are to present the proposed 2025 building fees and charges. The recommendation is that report number PDS-054-24 be received for information. The purpose of this report is to propose amendments to the 2025 building fees and charges. As per section 7(6) of the Building Code Act, a public meeting was required and, as mentioned, presented, circulated to our building community as well as posted on the website on October 24th. This meeting is a notice of a public participation meeting, and it was for proposed additions and alterations to the fees for the building department. Unless otherwise noted on the attached, all rates and fees in the schedule have been increased by the Consumer Price Index of 3%, with all such adjustments highlighted in bold red font. For additional context, the proposed fees and charges were additions aligned from Thames Center's 2021 building fee study, County of Middlesex municipality fee comparisons, and internal fee comparison. The added fees were the e-permitting fee of $25 for software cost recovery, a plans reexamination fee for $380, which is in the fee study, a fee for the registration of orders against title, $125, that being a legal fee, as well as another legal fee for the removal of orders from title, again, $125, which covers the legal fee, and a construction without permit, which is 100% of the original permit fee, which is listed in our building bylaw. Thames Center's proposed fees and charges bylaw will be presented later in this session of this council meeting, November 18th, 2024, for council's consideration. The chief building official and myself are here for any questions.
Thank you. Anyone in the chambers who wishes to ask any questions at this point? And I don't believe there's anybody online then, is there, sir?
There's no one online, Your
Okay,
Worship.
all right then. So at this point then, council, any questions from council? Deputy Mayor Smyberg, go ahead.
Thank you. And this question is for the director. I know that in 2021, we did a building fee study. When will the next study be undertaken?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, and to Councillor Smybert, we are planning and have budgeted for a fee study in 2026.
Okay, thank you. So something like the e-permitting fee, that's just a cost that's kind of caught in between the two studies, and you're trying to kind of capture that in order to get the cost back through the building permits. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no other questions, then the public meeting for the proposed 2025 building fees is now closed. Please note that no decision will be made at this time. Council only receives the information and comments. A decision will be made as part of the fees and charges staff report later on this council meeting. So the motion before us is that report number PDS-054-24 be received for information, and that the building public meeting adjourn at 5:33 p.m. and that council move into public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act to consider applications listed on the November 18th, 2024 council agenda. So a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. All right, number 8. Consent application B10-24 and zoning bylaw amendment. Application Z12-24, June Gualchme and Michael Gualchme, applicant. Stuart Finlater as the agent, and the property address is 4905 Westchester Burn. So, Ms. Cortez, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of the consent application is to sever a parcel of land to facilitate the disposal of a residence surplus to a farming operation as a result of a pending farm consolidation. And the purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment application is to rezone the balance of the farm to prohibit any new residential uses consistent with provincial and local planning policy. So the subject property is a farm situated on the northwest corner of Westchester Bourne and Westminster Drive, and the property contains a single detached dwelling serviced by a private well and septic system, and it also contains a workshop, a garden shed, and a silo. The lands to be severed would have a frontage of approximately 536 meters along Westchester Bourne and an area of approximately 95.7 acres, and this would contain the farmland vacant of any buildings. The agents have entered into an agreement of purchase and sale with the applicants to purchase the lands to be severed, being the farmland, whereas the applicants would retain ownership of the lands to be retained containing the residential use. So the lands to be retained would contain the single detached dwelling, workshop, garden shed, and silo, and would have a frontage of approximately 114 meters along Westchester Bourne and an area of approximately 2.4 acres. So staff note that the aerial photo on the location map is a bit out of date and the remains of the previous barn have been removed and the workshop has been built in its place or nearby. And the boundaries of the residential lot were determined to ensure the septic system would be wholly contained as well as the accessory structures. So the provincial planning statement and the County of Middlesex official plan, as well as Thames Center's official plan, generally permit lot creation in agricultural areas or a dwelling surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation, subject to criteria. And staff is satisfied that the criteria has been satisfied or is capable of being addressed through conditions of consent. To prohibit any new residential use on the balance of the farm and to be consistent with provincial and local policy, a site-specific agricultural A-45 zone is being requested for the lands to be severed. So based on the foregoing, the subject applications are consistent with the provincial planning statement and in conformity with both the Middlesex County and Thames Center official plans. So in regards to comments received during the circulation of this application, comments were received from the Director of Public Works, the Drainage Superintendent, the County Engineer, Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, Hydro One, and the Chief Building Official. And one public comment was received from Wayne, and it's attached to the report. Staff have reached out to Wayne regarding his comments. So staff recommend that the application for consent be approved subject to the 13 conditions noted in the report for the reasons outlined in the report, and also that the zoning bylaw amendment application be approved and that the implementing bylaw be considered as included in the bylaw portion of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. Mr. Finlater, do you have anything you wish to add? All right.
No, we've reviewed the report from Alana and I agree with the
Okay,
recommendation. I
All
have
right.
nothing, no,
okay.
or she wishes to add, but
Anything? No? Okay, all righty. So I'm gathering there's no one in the online?
There's no one online, your worship.
Okay, that's fine. Any questions or comments from the council? Councillor Crockett.
Through your worship, one of the conditions was being in regards to the entrance to the new slash existing agricultural lands. Do we know where that entrance will be situated, whether it will be off of the county road or off of a municipal road?
Through your worship to Councillor Crockett. So I'm not positive where the I guess entrance would be. It looks like there is an existing entrance off Westminster Drive, so it would need to be determined that there has been a permit for that or a permit would need to be applied for. And there's also an opportunity for the applicants to apply for an entrance permit along Westchester Bourne should they wish to do so.
Thank you. And then just further to that, I appreciate that staff's following up with the public comments because I believe that the considerations can be easily attainable through existing practices and buffers. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from council with a question? No? All right then. If there's no further discussion, the public meeting is now closed. Two decisions before us. A mover for and the seconder for the recommended motion to approve consent application B10-24, subject to the 13 conditions as amended to your agenda. A mover and a seconder. Councillor Heeman and Councillor Crockett, all in favor? That carries, thank you. And then moving on to the second part, a mover and a seconder for the recommended motion to approve the zoning bylaw amendment Z12-24 as appended to the agenda. Councillor Heeman and Deputy Mayor Smybert, all in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Stuart. 8.2 is the next item on the agenda, application B11-24. Norman Philip Demaray, Deborah Lynn Demaray, and Andrew James Demaray, applicant. Stephen Carnero Fernandez as the agent, and the property address is 5251 Dorchester Road. So again, Alana, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of this application is to convey a parcel of land known municipally as 5251 Dorchester Road for lot addition purposes to be merged in the same name and title as the abutting property to the north, known municipally as 5247 Dorchester Road. So the subject lands are situated on the west side of Dorchester Road and north of Harrietsville Drive, and the subject lands as a whole contain a single detached dwelling and a workshop which is used for a drainage business. The applicants are proposing to convey a parcel of land having a frontage of approximately 51.1 meters along Dorchester Road and an area of 1.86 acres for lot addition purposes to be merged in the same name and title as the abutting property to the north, known as 5247 Dorchester Road. And the applicants are seeking this consent to separate the drainage business from the agricultural operation. So through the boundary adjustment, the workshop on the lands to be conveyed would be located on 5247 Dorchester Road, which also contains a building used for the drainage business. The retained lands would have an area of approximately 10.76 acres and a frontage of approximately 44.52 meters and would contain the single detached dwelling and the cultivated land. So the provincial planning statement, the County of Middlesex official plan, and the Thames Center official plan generally permit consents involving minor boundary adjustments, provided that a non-viable farm parcel is not created and that agricultural activities are not adversely impacted. And in addition, the conveyance shall require the lands being severed to be merged in the same name and title as the lands to which they are being added. So staff is of the opinion that the proposed conveyance is not anticipated to cause adverse impacts on agricultural activities, as the lands to be retained would remain suitable for agricultural use. And staff believe it would be appropriate for the retained lands to be rezoned to recognize the agricultural use of the property as a condition of consent. As there are some deficiencies with lot requirements for both the retained and as well as the conveyed / enlarged parcels, staff recommend that a zoning bylaw amendment be required as conditions of consent to address any deficiencies. And staff would like to recommend that condition number 4 of the recommendation be amended to state that a zoning bylaw amendment is obtained for the lands to be conveyed / enlarged to recognize any lot deficiencies, including but not limited to the deficient interior side yard width of 12 meters to ensure zoning compliance. So based on the foregoing, the subject application is consistent with the provincial planning statement and in conformity with both the Middlesex County and Thames Center official plans. So during the circulation of the notice, comments were received from the county engineer, director of public works, drainage superintendent, Hydro One, the chief building official, and Kettle Creek Conservation Authority. And these comments are included within the report. And comments from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority were also received, noting that they have no comment as this property is outside of their watershed boundary. No public comments have been received to date. So staff recommend that the consent application be approved, subject to the 12 conditions noted in the report, also taking into account the recommended amendment to condition number 4 for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. Any additional information? Yes, would you like to come up to the mic here, please?
Good evening, Your Worship, and good evening, councillors. My name is Stephen Fernandez, and I act on behalf of the applicant, Norman, Deborah, and Andrew Demery, with respect to this consent application. I agree with the overview provided by the planner, so I'll be very brief. The applicant, as noted, is seeking a lot adjustment between 2 existing parcels of land, namely to increase the boundaries of 5247 Dorchester Road and to decrease the boundaries of 5251 Dorchester Road. The former lands I'll refer to as the enlarged lands, the lands we're looking to increase, and the other lot that we're looking to decrease, I will refer to as the retained lands. We're seeking a 51-meter adjustment so that the workshop on the retained lands will form part of the enlarged land. The provincial planning statement provides that minor boundary adjustments such as these are permitted. Case law from the Ontario Land Tribunal interpreting the provincial policy statement provides that boundary adjustments can be minor in two respects. First, you look at the numerical components, like how big is the adjustment? And the second, you look at the impact. Does it have a positive or negative impact on ongoing agricultural operations? The applicant notes that it is minor in both respects. Now, in terms of the numerics, there was a recent decision in 2022 which found that a lot adjustment, 11 hectares in size, was considered to be minor in relation to parcels that were approximately 40 hectares in size. In the present circumstances, there's a similar size discrepancy between the proposed lot adjustment of 0.7 hectares and the size of the retained lands, which will be in excess of 4 hectares in size. In addition, I would note that the adjustment is also minor in terms of its impact. So if you look at the enlarged lands, it currently has a farm drainage business. If you look at the retained lands, it has the residential dwelling, cash cropping, and then the workshop. That workshop on the retained lands supports the business occurring on the enlarged lands. So simply put, it makes sense for the farm drainage workshop to be within the boundaries of the enlarged lands, which carries on the farm drainage business, and to disentangle the cash cropping and the farm drainage uses. Lastly, I'd point out that the farm drainage business actually has a very long history. You know, I understand that it's been operating since 1968, and the workshop was built to support same in 1994, which I thought was a cool tidbit. If there's any further questions, you know, feel free to direct them my way. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Anybody else around for a question or a comment from the public? No, not in here. Okay. Any questions from the members of council on this application? No? Okay. So if there's no further discussion, the public meeting is now closed. And do I have a mover for the recommended motion to approve consent application B11-24, subject to the 12 conditions as appended on the agenda, noting also the slight change in item number 4? A mover and seconder, moved by Councillor Crockett and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smyber. All in favor? All right, thank you. That motion carries then. Thank you very much. So moving on, number 8.3, consent application B13-24, Joe Fleming applicant, Richard Fleming agent. Property address is 4411 Putnam Road, otherwise known as County Road 30. An overview then from Ms. Cortez, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of this consent application is to establish an access easement in favor of 4186 Crampton Drive over a portion of the subject lands to recognize the existing use of a driveway. So the subject property is located on the northwest corner of Putnam Road and Crampton Drive in the hamlet of Crampton. I did want to note that the notice of public meeting incorrectly states that the property is located within the hamlet of Putnam. So the lands also contain, the lands contain a driveway off Crampton Drive, and that provides access to the dwelling on the abutting lands. And there's also a access on Putnam Road for the dwelling at 4411 Putnam Road. So due to the orientation of the garage and proximity to the eastern lot line, the adjacent property can accommodate a driveway, and that would be a driveway that would be wholly contained within its boundary, and therefore the applicant is requesting to establish a legal access easement over the existing driveway to continue to provide access to 4186 Crampton Drive. So the provincial planning statement and the County of Middlesex official plan generally permit consents for legal or technical matters, including easements, and the Thames Center official plan also permits the establishment of easements to facilitate legal access, provided that the consent would not result in the creation of a new building lot. And the foregoing would not be compromised given that the proposed right-of-way easement is being sought to formally recognize a driveway that provides access to a neighboring dwelling. So based on the foregoing, the subject application is consistent with the provincial planning statement and in conformity with both the Middlesex County and Thames Center official plans. So during the circulation of the public meeting notice, comments were received from the county engineer, the Director of Public Works, the Drainage Superintendent, the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, the Chief Building Official, as well as Hydro One, and these comments are included within the report. No public comments have been received to date. So staff recommend that the consent application be approved, subject to the 6 conditions noted in the report for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Cortez. Is there anyone in the room who wants to speak to this, the applicant? Or nobody? Okay, okay. And I'm taking it then that there are no questions from the
There's no online,
public.
Your Worship.
Okay. Any questions from the members of council? No, alrighty. So if there's no further discussion, we will close the public meeting. A decision then, do I have a mover for the recommended motion to approve consent application B13-24, subject to the 6 conditions as appended to the agenda? Councillor Crockett and Deputy Mayor Smyber, all in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, item number 8.4, consent application B14-24 and zoning bylaw amendment application Z13-24, Marie Pickle, Suzanne Seiler, David Pickle and Mike Pickle as applicants, Stuart Finlater as the agent, and the property address is 22011 Missouri Road. So go ahead, Alana.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of the consent application is to sever a parcel of land to facilitate the disposal of a resident's surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation. And the purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment application is to rezone the balance of the farm to prohibit any new residential use consistent with provincial and local policy. So the subject property is situated on the west side of Missouri Road and on the north side of Thorndale Road. And the farm contains a single detached dwelling serviced by a private well and septic system. And the lands are used for agricultural purposes in the form of field crop cultivation. The subject lands also contain natural heritage features, including significant woodlands. So surrounding land uses include agricultural uses, natural heritage features, and residential uses. And the subject land abuts a 1.23 acre property used for residential purposes, known municipally as 22021 Missouri Road. And the settlement area of Thorndale is located approximately 345 meters from the subject lands. So the lands to be severed would contain a single detached dwelling and is proposed to have a broken frontage of approximately 66 meters along Missouri Road and an area of approximately 3.7 acres. And the lands to be retained would have a frontage of approximately 104 meters along Missouri Road and an area of approximately 61.3 acres. And that would contain the farmland vacant of any buildings. The applicants are also proposing to rezone the retained lands from the agricultural zone to the site-specific agricultural A-45 zone to prohibit any new residential uses. So the provincial planning statement and the County of Middlesex official plan, as well as Thames Center's official plan, generally permit lot creation in agricultural areas for a dwelling surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation, subject to criteria. And while staff is satisfied that most of the criteria has been satisfied or is capable of being addressed through conditions of consent, staff is of the opinion that the requested size of 3.7 acres for the lands to be severed is larger than necessary to accommodate the septic system and well, which are located in close proximity to the dwelling. The policy framework states that the proposed lot should be kept to a minimum size to accommodate the dwelling and servicing. And considering this and also taking into account the location of the dwelling being behind an abutting parcel and set back approximately 122 meters from Missouri Road, staff believe reducing the size of the lands to be severed to be approximately 1.5 acres, as shown on map 1, would be appropriate to ensure the severed lands are the minimum size required to accommodate the services and the dwelling, while keeping with provincial and county as well as local policies. Are you able to put it? Thanks. Okay, so the lands to be severed being reduced to approximately 1.5 acres would contain a single detached dwelling and would comply with the undersized lot provisions of the agricultural A zone. And then to prohibit any new residential use on the balance of the farm, a site-specific A-45 zone is being requested for the lands to be severed, apart from the lands that are currently zoned environmental protection, which are to remain unchanged. And that's map 1, which shows the recommended reduced size for the lot to be severed. So based on the foregoing, the subject applications are consistent with the provincial planning statement and in conformity with the County of Middlesex and Thames Center official plans. So through the circulation of the notice of public meeting, comments were received from the county engineer, the director of public works, the drainage superintendent, Hydro One, the chief building official, and the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority. And these comments are included within the report. No public comments have been received to date. So staff recommend that application for consent B 14-24 be approved, subject to the 13 conditions noted in the report for the reasons outlined in the report, and that the zoning bylaw amendment application be approved, and that the implementing bylaw be considered as included in the bylaw portion of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cortez. Mr. Finlayder, anything you wish to add?
Thank you. Probably gonna sound like a broken record here, but we do generally agree with the recommendation, obviously to approve the severance. What we have issues with is the reduced size of this property. If anybody's been out and looked at this property, it's clear that the lands to the north of the dwelling, which we propose to be included with the lot, are not farmed and likely will never be farmed. I don't know if they've ever been farmed. It's got basically mature trees. It's got scrub. It's very hilly and slopey from back to front to the road. There's actually an area right through the middle of it that I guess, I don't know whether it was the township or the conservation authority or somebody cleaned it all out a few years ago after a major rainstorm because it was backing water up, and there used to be a stream or a drain or something there. It's still there, but not, there's no water, no sitting water in it, but it is utilized during flood periods. So it's certainly not agricultural land. The sections of the PPS, again, I'll just point out that they don't say that it'd be small enough to accommodate the dwelling and the services. It says the use and the services, the residential use. And so, you know, this area here could be, you know, used by people living in that house. It's a naturalized area. I don't see any value of it being kept with the farm. And for that reason, I would ask council to approve the application as applied for. Clearly, the intent of the PPS, the county plan, and the Thames Center's official plan is to limit or avoid taking any productive agricultural land, cultivated land, out of cultivation to accommodate a surplus residential dwelling. That is not the case here. So I would ask council to, again, approve the application as it was applied for and not with the reduced size. And your worship, I just point out Ms. Sealer is here tonight. I'm not sure if she has anything she wants to add, but she has certainly got individuals that are interested in purchasing this property. Looking forward to the decision tonight based on what was applied for and not the reduced area. And I don't know if she has anything she wishes to add, if that's okay, your worship.
Yes, go ahead.
I have in principle, I have a family, a young family who is not from Thames Center, who is very, very interested in this property. They have 2 young kids. They want to live in the Thorndale area. They want to go to the West Missouri School because they've heard great things about it. And I know they would be an asset to our community. I'm not related to them. I have met them through friends. I'm here representing my family today. My husband is ill, and my kids are not able to attend. But I would really appreciate the consideration of the larger lot. As Stuart has mentioned, this is not farmable land. It likely never could have been or never will be. And I do appreciate you listening to us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Cortez. No, just one moment. Ms. Cortez, did you have something else you wanted to say? Go ahead.
Yes, through your worship. Staff would just like to note that woodlots and agroforestry are considered agricultural uses. So for example, maple syrup production, things like that. So staff are of the opinion that, you know, that woodlot can be considered an agricultural use and would be considered an agricultural use. And that our policies speak to limiting the size of the residential lot so that there's more land kept with the balance of the farm. Thank you.
Thank you for those additional comments. Is there anyone online or in the chambers who wants to speak?
There's no one online, your worship.
Okay, all righty. I'll turn it over to members of council then for any questions they might have. Councillor Crockett.
Through your worship, and this is actually just a piece of clarity, Alana, is when we look at the original map, we don't have it. I'm sure she has it in front of her. When you look at the original map, the area that's crisscrossed in red, that's identified as the Conservation Authority regulated area, goes through this, we'll call it a wood lot for the premise of the conversation. And in the request, I think it kind of captures all of that area. And I was just curious if we know why none of the conservation areas had any comment on this.
Who would like to answer that? Alana, you did not hear back from them or they just had no comment?
Through your worship to Councillor Crockett. So they did provide comment, but they had no concerns with the Conservation Authority regulated area. So they just provided no comment.
Okay, thank you for that clarity.
Yes, Mr. Finlater, go ahead.
So I would suggest that the area that we're talking about here is not a wood lot. There's trees on it, there's scrub on it. It's very slope oriented. It's wet. I mean, that's the reasons why I'm suggesting that it's not an agricultural, it's not in an agricultural use. And it's not a wood lot by any means. A wood lot is like at the back end of this property. That's a wood lot. What's at the front is basically scrub land and very slopey and not, in my opinion, suitable for farming. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you. So any other questions, council, before we move on then? No? Okay. So we have before us the recommended motion by planning staff. And if there's no further discussion, we will close this portion of the meeting. I'm wondering from council which way you might like to go on this one. The recommended motion before you on your agenda. To approve consent application B1424, subject to the 13 conditions as appended to this agenda. Oh, I'm sorry.
I would
Councillor
like a
Heeman?
motion for approval of the recommended motion with the 13 conditions, with the exception of condition 2, making it approved as applied for.
Yes, I'm going to ask the clerk to read this out. So for absolute clarity,
So that the application for consent B1424 requested by Murray Pickle, Suzanne Sealer, David Pickle, and Mike Pickle to sever a parcel of land to dispose of a dwelling surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation having an area of approximately 1.5 hectares or 3.7 acres and a frontage of approximately 66 meters for lands legally described as part of Lot 17, Concession 2, Geographic Township of West Missouri, Municipality of Thames Center, also known as 22011 Missouri Road, be approved, subject to the following conditions, all except for lot number 2. Condition number 2, as you stated, it just describes the description before.
Yes, your worship. And I just want to clarify that that does, through you to the clerk, that would that be in effect approving it as requested?
Yes, that was the motion provided by the planner as the originally application was.
All right, then if there's no further discussion, we have a mover, a seconder for that motion. Councillor Crockett, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, one opposed. Pardon? It's passed. Just checking the numbers here. Okay, all right, then that motion is carried then. Thank you for your attendance here this afternoon. Second motion is on the next page, a mover and for the recommended motion to approve the zoning bylaw Z 13-24 as recommended, I'm sorry, as appended to the agenda, a mover and a seconder. Councillor Crockett and Councillor Heeman, all in favor? That carries then, thank you. All right, now you can go, thank you. The next item on the agenda is 8.5 consent application B15-24, Nancy Ann Hicks and Jeffrey Earl Hicks applicant, Payden Shrub as the agent, and the property address is 5197 Dorchester Road. An overview by our planner, Alana Cortez. Thanks.
Thank you, your worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of the consent application is to sever a parcel of land to facilitate the disposal of a residence surplus to a farming operation as a result of a pending farm consolidation. So the subject property is a 22.8 hectare farm situated on the west side of Dorchester Road and south of Gladstone Drive, abutting the hamlet of Gladstone. And the farm contains a single detached dwelling and is used for agricultural purposes in the form of field crop cultivation, as well as a Christmas tree farm. So the lands to be severed would have a frontage of approximately 334.5 meters along Dorchester Road and an area of approximately 22.38 hectares and would contain farmland and is also vacant of any buildings. So the lands to be retained would contain a single detached dwelling and would have a frontage of approximately 44.4 meters along Dorchester Road and an area of approximately 0.7 acres. The applicants have entered into an agreement of purchase and sale with the Tri-Forage Horse Hay Limited, Tory Mar, to purchase the lands to be severed, being the farmland, whereas the applicants would retain ownership of the lands to be retained, which would contain the residential use. So the provincial planning statement and both the County of Middlesex official plan as well as Thames Center's official plan generally permit lot creation in agricultural areas where a dwelling surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation, subject to criteria. Staff is satisfied that the criteria has been satisfied or capable of being addressed through conditions of consent. To prohibit any residential use on the balance of the farm and to be consistent with provincial and local policy, as a condition of consent, the applicant will be required to apply for a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the farmland, being the severed lands, to a site-specific agricultural A-45 zone. Based on the foregoing, the subject applications are consistent with the provincial planning statement and in conformity with the Middlesex County and Thames Center official plans. So through the circulation of the public meeting notice, comments were received from the county engineer, the director of public works, the drainage superintendent, the chief building official, the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, Hydro One, and the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority, and no public comments have been received to date. So staff recommend that the application be approved, subject to the 12 conditions noted in the report for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. Any additional information from the applicant?
Your worship, I have the applicant online. Nancy, I'll be bringing her over.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Nancy Hicks here.
Hi, Nancy. Go ahead.
I really have nothing else to offer. I just am here if there are any questions at all.
All righty, we'll move to that portion then. Anybody online or in the chambers who wishes to speak?
Zone
No?
online, your worship.
Okay, then. Any questions from members of council on this application? Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, your worship. This question's directed at staff. I know that we just had a drainage request come forward for this area. Is that going to be impacted in any way with the sale or severance?
Do we have someone here who could answer that question?
Our drainage superintendent is not here right now. I could ask that question, get back to you.
I actually have his response. I just wanted to ask it out loud. I've been doing it.
How sneaky is that?
Sorry, I've been doing that all night to Jared. Anyways, Travis said that there'd be no impacts in this area. I just know that we talked about this a couple weeks ago, so I wanted to ask it.
Well, you're off the hook then, Mr. Craven. Okay. Okay. She owes you one. Okay. All right then. So any other questions from council? None at all? Okay. So there being no further discussion, the public meeting is now closed. And do I have a mover for the recommended motion to approve consent application B15-24, subject to the 12 conditions as appended on the agenda? A mover and a seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybird and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to application, consent application B16-24, W. Robert Maddox, applicant, Paul Vanden Bosch, agent. Property is 4430 Dundas Street. So an overview. You're busy tonight. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of the consent application is to convey 2 parcels of land having a combined area of approximately 0.59 acres to be merged with the abutting property to the west, known municipally as 4424 Dundas Street. And the consent is requested to adjust the lot boundary between an existing commercial use, being Snowline Power Sports, and an adjacent residential use, both of which are under the same ownership. So the subject property is approximately 3.36 acres in size and located on the north side of Dundas Street at the intersection of Dundas Street and Shaw Road. And the property contains an existing single detached dwelling, which is serviced by a private well and septic system, and also contains a shed. So the applicant seeks to adjust the boundary between the residential lot and the commercial operation to have the business wholly contained on the one lot. And if approved, the retained portion of 4430 Dundas Street would be approximately 2.74 acres in size. The proposed lands to be enlarged, being 4424 Dundas Street, are approximately 2.57 acres in size, and they contain the business that specializes in new and used parts for power sport vehicles. And this property is under the same ownership as the subject lands. However, they have not merged with the adjacent parcel. And if approved, the lands to be enlarged would be approximately 3.16 acres in size. So staff would like to note that this application is a resubmission of a previous consent, so file number B10-2016, which was conditionally approved by Municipal Council on April 25th, 2016. However, due to an error in the registration process, the conveyed parcels merged back with 4430 Dundas Street, and the lots reverted to their pre-approval configuration. And the applicant's lawyer has provided assurance that this would not happen again if the application was to be approved, as 4430 Dundas Street will be conveyed to the applicant's son prior to the conveyance of the parcels. So the provincial planning statement, the County of Middlesex official plan, and Thames Center's official plan generally support the granting of consents for the purpose of adjusting or correcting lot boundaries provided that the consent does not lead to the creation of an undersized or irregularly shaped lot unsuited to the purpose for which it is being conveyed. So it is required that the lands being conveyed be merged with the same name and title as the lands to which they're being added. And it appears that the reconfiguration of the lot boundary between 4430 and 4420 or 24 Dundas Street is minor in nature, and it doesn't result in any zoning deficiencies on either of the lots. And further, the application does not propose a change in use for either lot. The purpose is to recognize the current use of the conveyed parcels and to ensure that the residential use and commercial operation are separated. So based on the foregoing, the subject application is consistent with the provincial planning statement and in conformity with both the County of Middlesex and Thames Center official plans. So during the circulation of the public meeting notice, comments were provided by the county engineer, the director of public works, the drainage superintendent, the chief building official, and Hydro One, which are included within the report. And comments were also provided by the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, who advised no objections. So staff recommend that application for consent B16-24 be approved, subject to the 6 conditions noted in the report for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Are there any questions from the applicant or Mr. Vandenbosch? Do you have anything? Okay, thank you. And nobody online? Okay, then. So I'll turn this over if council has any questions that they would like to ask before we move on. Seeing none, okay. There being no further discussion, then the public meeting is now closed. And I'm looking for a mover and a seconder for the recommended motion to approve consent application B16-24, subject to the 6 conditions as appended on this agenda. Moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smybert. All in favor? All right, then that motion carries. Thank you. Thanks for your attendance. Um, Okay, we'll move then to close the public meeting. A mover and a seconder that the planning public meetings adjourn at 6:18 p.m. and council reconvene in its regular meeting in order to continue with deliberations. Councillor Heeman and Councillor Crockett, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. All right, the motion and a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes of the council meeting held on November the 4th, 24, approved as circulated. Nobody wants to move that? Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Crockett, all in favor? Thank you. Item number 10, the consent agenda. Items listed under the consent agenda are received for information in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. Unless there is one being pulled, then we're looking for consent items 10.1 through 10.5 being received for information. Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That carries, thanks. And moving on to reports of departments. Applications for official plan amendment 0223 and zoning bylaw amendment Z14-23, Brantham Excavating Inc. as the applicant, Escher Planning Inc., care of Melanie Horton as the agent, and lands generally in the southwest corner of Dundas Street, County Road 2, and Elgin Road. The public participation meeting for the subject application was held on June 26, 23. Today's council meeting is not a public participation meeting under the Planning Act, and therefore the public will not have an opportunity to speak or provide comments at today's meeting. So go ahead whenever you're ready, Elena.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of the subject applications is to redesignate the subject lands from the agricultural designation to the extractive industrial designation, and also to rezone the lands from the agricultural A zone to the extractive industrial M3 zone to allow the establishment of a licensed aggregate extraction operation. And the applicant is proposing to establish an aggregate extraction operation subject to the issuance of a license from the Ministry of Natural Resources, and also proposing amendments to the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment as these are required since the current designation and zoning does not allow for the proposed use. So as council will recall, the subject applications were heard at a public meeting of municipal council on June 26, 2023. And this report, my presentation provides an evaluation of the proposal and a recommendation for council's consideration. So the subject property is a 112-acre farm situated on the west side of Elgin Road and on the south side of Dundas Street. And the lands contain no buildings or structures and are currently used for the cultivation of field crops. And the lands also contain natural heritage features, a natural heritage corridor in the form of woodlands and wetlands, which extends from the southerly limit and generally continues along the west side, which extends from the southerly limit and, oh, sorry, repeat. Okay, so a Class A pit license through the Aggregate Resources Act or the ARA under the authority of the MNR has been requested. And in support of the subject proposal, various studies related to hydrogeology, natural environment, noise impacts, and cultural heritage or archaeology have been submitted. A planning justification report was also provided and included as part of the Aggregate Resources Act summary statement. So as mandated by the ARA, a series of site plans have been prepared and they show existing site features, operational plans, technical recommendations, and site rehabilitation. And the technical studies with respect to hydrogeology, natural environment, and noise impacts have been peer reviewed by the municipality's engineering consultant, being Stantec. So staff would like to note that an updated ARA site plan has been attached to the report, and the yellow highlighted areas within the site plans are revisions to the plans based on comments from MNR as well as comments from the peer reviews. So as extraction occurs, the operational area is to be stripped of topsoil and subsoil and stored on site within berms or used for progressive rehabilitation. Temporary berms are proposed to mitigate noise and visual impacts on neighboring residential uses. And aggregate processing operations and shipping would only occur during daytime hours, and processing of materials on this property would be conducted in the designated areas. Fencing around the perimeter of the licensed area will be required to meet the MNR standards. And the proposed pit would require an entrance off of Elgin Road near the southern limit of the property. So truck traffic from the proposed pit would either use Elgin Road or Dundas Street, depending on market demands. And the average truck volumes anticipated would be in the range of 10 to 12 trucks per day, depending on, during the operating season. And then based on the extent of extraction proposed below the water table, the site is to be progressively rehabilitated to a natural environment use, which would result in a pond approximately 13 hectares in size, with naturalized areas consisting of wetlands as well as meadows and along side of slopes of the pond. So staff would like to note that as part of a revised site plan based on the peer review and Ministry of Natural Resource comments and requested changes, it's also indicated that temporary trailers for storage and office use may be located on the subject lands approximately 30 meters from the licensed area. So the Thames Center official plan includes evaluation criteria for proposed official plan amendments, and responses to the evaluation criteria are indicated in the analysis section of the planning report. Overall, the provincial planning statement allows for extraction of mineral aggregate resources as an interim use, and the protection and management of aggregate resources has been deemed to be of provincial significance. Additionally, the County of Middlesex official plan and Thames Center official plans permit aggregate uses, provided an amendment to the Thames Center official plan is approved and appropriate zoning is in place. The subject property is located within the primary aggregate resources area as identified within the Thames Center official plan. So as noted, as part of the application submission, a natural environment report, a hydrogeological assessment, and a noise impact study were submitted. And these applications were peer reviewed by the municipality's consulting engineer, being Stantec. And in response to Stantec's reviews, supplementary information has been provided for reports, which resulted in Stantec's sign off on all of those reports in that their comments have been addressed. And recommended and accepted mitigation measures are to be implemented through the ARA licensing process. In regards to the siting of buildings on the property, temporary storage or office trailers may be located on the site. And to ensure that there are no zoning compliance issues, permitting the temporary trailers can be appropriately addressed through a site-specific extractive industrial zone. And additionally, in regards to the road system and its adequacy to accommodate projected increases in traffic, both Elgin Road and Dundas Street are county roads identified as truck haul routes, and these roads are maintained to county standards. As part of the entrance permit process, as indicated by the county engineer, road improvements will be required, which may include a right turn taper and a left turn slip around with a wide radii. So as part of the circulation of the public meeting notice for the proposal, as well as after the public meeting was held, comments were received from the county engineer, the director of public works, the drainage superintendent, the chief building official, as well as the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority. And these comments are included within the report. Additionally, public comments were received from Janet Tucker, Janet Belor, and Tyler Stewart, and these comments are attached to the report. During the public meeting, comments were verbally provided by John Bayer, Tyler Stewart, and Alma Johnston, and a comments chart including responses to comments was prepared by the agent and is included in the report. So the concerns raised by the public have generally been addressed by the studies and supplementary information. In all, planning staff is satisfied that the applications are consistent with the provincial planning statement and in conformity with the County of Middlesex and Thames Center official plans. And staff recommend that official plan amendment 02-23 be adopted and forwarded to the County of Middlesex for consideration of approval, and that the implementing bylaw be considered as included in the bylaw portion of the agenda. Additionally, staff recommend that zoning bylaw amendment application Z14-23, taking into account the site-specific extractive industrial M3 zone, be approved in principle, and that the implementing bylaw be forwarded to a future meeting once the official plan amendment is approved by the County of Middlesex. All for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cortez. Any questions from the, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, through you, Your Worship, I have the agent online, Melanie Horton. I'll be bringing her over in case council has
Oh,
any questions for her
Certainly. Go
specifically.
right ahead. There you are. We see you. Was there anything you wanted to add past the planner's report? I can't hear you. Are you muted? Is your microphone on? Yes.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we've got you now. Okay.
Okay.
Any other information you wanted to provide to council, or turn it over to questions?
Thank you, Your Worship, but Alana's presentation and report was very complete, so I don't have anything to add. I believe Brandon Hassan is in the audience. I think I can see the audience. Yes, he's there. So he is also available to answer questions about the operation or the amendments. Thank you.
All right. Then. So Brandon, did you have anything you wanted to add to the report? No, everything's good. Okay, some questions then from council. Councillor Crockett, go ahead.
Through you, your worship. I just wanted a clarification on where the main entrance will be, whether it's off of Elgin Road or Dundas.
So through your worship, the entrance, it's on, if you have the site plan set of drawings, it's actually highlighted on the second page, I believe. So it'd be at the farthest south limit of the property onto Elgin Road.
Okay.
There we go. Go back one page. Yes, so you can see it just highlighted in the, I guess you can't see my cursor, but the southeast corner of the site onto Elgin.
Thank you. And then just some follow-up comments. I do want to just say thank you to everyone that was part of the hydrogeology, environment, and noise impact studies. I know that those were main concerns that were brought forward in the public meeting. And further to that, I appreciate that the county engineer added some new comments regarding the road improvement requirements that will likely have to take place in order to satisfy the additional truck traffic in this area. Since it does have residential housing around it. And since there's been an increase of just overall traffic frequency, I know that safety is a top priority for those that are neighboring this pit. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from council with a question or comment? Councillor Heeman.
Yes, I got a couple questions. First, I remember when this first came forward, there was some discussion about trees being potentially planted as noise mitigation measures. Did that end up in the final mitigation strategy or?
So through your worship, there have been some revisions to the site plan that call for additional tree planting in different areas of the property. So you'll see on the north, there's something called a riparian enhancement plan that's highlighted in yellow, and it goes into the details of the planting. But at the north edge of the license, which is south of the drain, there was a recommendation from both the township peer reviewer and the Ministry of Natural Resources for some additional planting in that area to provide some shade for the drain, the creek. And there's also planting along the west side of the property, adjacent to the wetland. And there had been discussions, and I think Brandon's certainly willing to plant some trees along the south limit, adjacent to the neighbor who's just adjoining the property to the south.
Thank you. You read my mind, especially if that exits right by that neighbor's laneway.
Yes.
That might help with dust and noise. So, likewise, I was just wondering if there was any recourse or any additional assistance that could be warranted to those who are concerned about their well but weren't able to participate in the hydrological study. And just if there's any reassurance as to how their aquifer will be maintained or what recourse they have, if there are any issues down the road.
Yes, thank you. Through your worship, there is a condition on the site plans that affords anybody within 150 meters of the property who has any issues with their well. There's a complaint response protocol that's outlined on the site plans. So essentially, if somebody experienced an issue with their well and they were concerned it might be as a result of the below water extraction at the pit, Brantham Excavating would respond within 24 hours to make sure they're not without water, so temporary water supply. And then generally it's a licensed well inspector or hydrogeologist that has a look to see what the cause of the issue is. And so that protocol's all laid out on the site plans. And it's available to anybody within that radius. There's also, I should mention, there's also a groundwater monitoring program that's part of the conditions that the Ministry of Natural Resources will enforce, and it will require an annual report that goes to the Ministry of Natural Resources. And that's something that would certainly be available to the township in the future or the county if there was an interest in seeing that information.
One last question, is Tyler Stewart included within that 150-meter radius?
Through you, yes, and Brandon may have something to add here, but he is included within that radius. And there's also kind of a separate arrangement with Tyler just to do a baseline inspection of his well system. He's got a dug well. So Branton Excavating is working with him directly just to make sure that his concerns regarding his well are addressed.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thanks very much. If there's nothing else, then no additional comments or questions, then the application for with the recommended motion is that the application for official plan amendment 0223 requested by Escher Planning Inc., care of Melanie Horton on behalf of Branton Excavating Inc. for lands legally described as part of lots 13 and 14, concession 1, NRT, geographic township of North Dorchester, and designated as part 1 on reference plan 33R-18583, municipality of Thames Center, be adopted and forwarded to the county of Middlesex for approval, and that the implementing bylaw be considered as included in the bylaw portion of the agenda. The last remains the same as outlined on your agenda, but I just wanted you to be noting that the after the first adopted, that it's going to be forwarded to the county of Middlesex. So a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smybert. All in favor? That carries, then thank you. Thank you, Brandon, for being here tonight. All right, so going to turn the next part over to the Director of Legislative Services to present the proposed 2025 fees and charges.
Thank you, Your Worship. So every year we like to present the fees and charges for across the municipal divisions in late November. So it comes to you prior to the budget. You guys have seen all of the proposed changes. I don't know if there's any other information you'd like. We've had the public meeting for building, which was required under the legislation. Other than that, it's just if you guys have individual questions, the directors and I are here to answer them.
All right, Council, any questions that you might have for the clerk? Seeing none? Okay. Oh, you do? Sorry. Go ahead.
Through your worship, I'm going to ask this on behalf of Danielle because I know that she's going to ask this. Just for a point of clarity, the increase in water consumption rates over 2023 was based on the fact that we kept the rate increases the same last year through the budgeting process. Is that
Your
how
worship,
I
that's
recall it?
correct.
Okay.
Is that it then?
That was.
Okay.
I can't put them on the spot again.
Well, you can, but. All right, then, if there are no other questions, then a mover and a seconder that report number LS013-24 be received for information, and that the proposed 2025 fees and charges be approved, and that an implementation bylaw be brought forward to a future meeting of council. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Crockett and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smybert. All in favor? Good, that carries, thank you. Director of Financial Services to present the financial report as of September 30th, 24. Go ahead, Emily, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of the report is to provide council with a financial reporting update as of September 30th, 2024, and this report is to be received for information. As you'll note in the report, we do have the 2024 budget that was passed on January 15th, as shown in the schedule that was attached. As should be noted that capital is not included because that is a separate budget item. At this point in time, it's difficult to predict our year-end financial position for the municipality for a variety of reasons, but mostly due to a number of items not being completed until our year-end process, as well as the timing of events and seasonal fluctualities that we see. Overall, the organization is sitting in a surplus position at this point in time, with the exception of planning and development, which is currently in a deficit, largely due to lower than anticipated revenue as per the budget. Happy to answer any questions that you may have, as well as the directors we may call upon if you have specific items. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Any questions then from the members of council? Councillor Heeman?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the director, does planning and development have any reserves?
Through you, the worship, yes, there is reserves.
Follow up. Okay, any other questions from members of council? Okay, I do not see any. Then a mover and a seconder that report number F-010-24 be received for information. Moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smybert. All in favor? That carries. Thank you, Emily. Reports of committees is item number 12 on your agenda. Items listed under reports of committees are approved by council in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. Unless anything's being separated, the motion is that reports of committee agenda items 12.1 and 12.2 be approved as presented. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Crockett, you're moving the motion. And seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? Okay, and no unfinished business. And we've already dealt with the motion. So the next one is a motion by Councillor Crockett. Would you like to introduce this motion?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So for this evening, I'll read off the recommended motion that I put forward. Whereas road safety and traffic infractions are a growing concern within Thames Center, and whereas there has been a noticeable increase in traffic-related accidents, speeding violations, pedestrian safety issues, and reckless driving across the municipality, highlighting the need for greater public awareness and education on traffic laws and road safety practices, issues that, while not unique to Thames Center, are relevant to our community. And whereas local agencies, including law enforcement, fire services, Thames Center Public Works, the County of Middlesex, and the Ministry of Transportation, would be invited to attend and speak to their commitment to reducing traffic accidents and improving overall road safety through proactive measures, including education, enforcement, and community outreach. And whereas hosting a public town hall focused on roadway and traffic education will provide an opportunity to engage residents in meaningful discussions, share valuable information, and gather input on concerns related to traffic safety and enforcement. Now therefore be it resolved that staff be directed to coordinate a roadway and traffic town hall in spring 2025, inviting external stakeholders to participate in an open forum that allows residents to ask questions, provide suggestions, and give feedback on roadway and traffic safety concerns.
Thank you, Councillor Crockett. A seconder for this motion or some discussion? Are you seconding then, Deputy Mayor Smybert? Okay. All in favor then? That motion carries then. Thanks very much. New business? No. Turning to bylaws, item number 16. Bylaws 79 dash, I think there's a change. Is there not? Okay, then a mover and a second there that bylaws 80-2024 and 81-2024 be adopted as presented, and that bylaw 79-2024 be adopted as amended. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Crockett and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? All right. That's carried. Thanks very much. So council will be moving into closed session for which there will be no lives. I'm sorry, Councillor Heeman, did you have something you wanted to say before we move?
Yeah, I was just wondering if we could have a brief recess.
We are.
Okay.
We
thank you.
will. All right, so council will now be moving into closed session for which there will be no live streaming. The live stream will resume once the closed session portion has been completed. So a mover and a seconder that council adjourned its to closed session at 6:46 PM pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act in order to consider personal matters about an unidentifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, in order to review the Economic Development Committee's recommendations regarding the community improvement grant applications. Moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? Thank you. And we will take we'll return to the chambers at 7 PM.